Make bath time fun time when you unleash this friendly sea serpent bath mitt. You may just find him lurking in unexplored regions of the bathtub, hidden behind mountains of bubbles, or even devouring the soap bar. Complete with bulging eyes, a pointy dorsal fin, and forked tongue, his job isn't complete until the last trace of dirt is licked away. In this video, you will learn to crochet Seymore the Sea Serpent bath mitt from start to finish. I've also scattered tips throughout the video so that finishing is just a snap. Plus, the companion pattern is available by following the link in the description below. Use readily available 4-ply cotton yarn to make this durable yet easy care accessory. I chose 4 colors for today's demonstration, but you can use as few as 3 or as many as you like. Keep in mind that Seymore the Sea Serpent makes a very whimsical yet economical gift for children of all ages. So, you may want to make a few extras and keep them on hand for those last-minute gifts.
And we're starting with the tongue because you want to have the pieces available. Now that we have 13 chained, we're going to roll the chain over to expose the 3rd loop on the back. And then work a slip stitch in the 2nd chain from the hook. This is the 1st chain, this is the 2nd chain. Going under that back loop, we're going to do a slip stitch. And then the next 5 chains. So that's a total of 6. And what that you just created was a fork on the tongue. Now, we're going to work a single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And that's the last one there. We're going to turn our work and chain 1. And we're going to work 1 single crochet under both loops of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, and 6. And that brings us to where the slip stitches start. And at this point, we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now, we're going to roll over our chain again, and we're going to slip stitch into the 2nd chain from the hook. There we go. And then in each of the next 5. And that brings us right to the fork in the tongue, because all little sea serpents need a fork in their tongue. And now you're going to end off. Now, you do have an end down here and an end over here. You're going to weave those in, going to form a slip knot to start, and then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the 2nd chain from the hook. Now you can go right into that upper loop if you'd like, or you can work on the back loop. So I'm going to work a single crochet, and I'm going to work a single crochet in each of the next chains to the end. Well, that just happens to be 3 altogether. So there's my 3 single crochets. And now I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to chain 1. And at this point, I'm going to work 2 stitches in the 1st stitch. So going under both loops, can you see both loops? I'm going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. And then I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch to the end. Well, that's just a couple more. 1, 2. So now I've just increased on this end. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And I'm going to repeat that last row until there are a total of 13 stitches across. And then I'll meet up with you. Just increased until we got to this last row, and there's 13 stitches across this row. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work even. Since we're working in single crochets throughout this pattern, that means work 1 single crochet in each stitch across. So I've marked both ends of it. You'll need those markers later. On the next row, we're going to attach the tongue. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain your 1 and turn. We're going to align the tongue with the center 3 stitches. And we're going to hold it in place. If you want, you can put a little marker on it. I like to mark, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to put it in the first stitch. Now it's set, ready to go. All right, so we're going to do our single crochet in each of the stitches. You're just working even across this row. Okay, now I'm at the point where I've reached the center 3 stitches. Now I'm going to take my marker out and I'm going to insert my hook through the tongue because we're attaching it. And this is an easy way to attach it without doing a lot of finishing when you're all done. And you're going to work a single crochet into it. Then in the next stitch, I'm going to put it right through the center of that tongue and work. And also in the center, in the next stitch, I've got my hook through the tongue and in the next stitch, and I'm going to complete a single crochet there. And then I'm going to go into the top loops of the last stitch on the tongue and go into the next stitch right here. So now the tongue is attached very securely too, and we're ready to go on. So we're going to work even to the end. Now the next part is we're going to work even for 10 more rows, and I'll meet up with you then. And now what I'm going to do on the next 5 rows is I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to turn. I'm going to decrease 1 at the beginning and at the end of each of these rows. This is how you do a decrease. You insert your hook under both loops of the first stitch, pull up a loop. Then insert your hook under both loops of the next stitch, pull up a loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So 2 stitches has now become 1 stitch. Okay? Then you're going to work all the way across until I get to the last 2 stitches. We're at the last 2 stitches. So we're going to insert our hook under the next stitch, pull up a loop, insert our hook under the last stitch, pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. 1 stitch from 2. Chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do this for the next 4 rows. So we'll end up with just 3 stitches when it's all said and done. 2. And that's perfect. Now, we're on our last row. We're going to chain 1 and work 1 stitch in each of the stitches. In other words, we're going to work even, but we only have 3 stitches, so that's 1, 2, and 3. We can end off, and before we move on, make sure you weave in your ends on this piece. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work 6 half double crochets into that 3rd chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3rd one. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, 3 loops on hook, yarn over and pull through 3. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. That's the 2nd one. Here's the 3rd one. Here's the 4th one. Here's the 5th one. And the 6th one. Make sure you do a chain 1 at the end, and the only reason you're doing a chain 1 is so that you can pull it through and end off. Weave one of the ends in, and your eye sockets are ready to go. We are going to start the belly of Little Sea Monster. We're going to start at this end and go that way. So, it started the same way as the mouth. At the end of our row 12, we are going to mark both ends of that row. Okay, so we made our chain 1 and we're turning. On row 13, we're going to work an increase at the beginning of the round and at the end of the round. So when we're all done, we'll have 15 stitches after this row. What that does is it makes the underside of the belly just a little bit wider than the mouth. That's so that when it's put together, the mouth doesn't show up on the side. We're going to work even on the 15 stitches for 17 more rows. And when we end off, we're going to weave in our end. So let's go. If you wanted to put a stripe in, these 17 rows is where you'd put any stripes that you would have. I'd set them back a few rows in at least. So what I'm doing is on this row, I'm going to, on the last stitch, I'm going to insert my hook just like I was going to do a single crochet and pull up a loop. Then I will take my new yarn and finish it with that by pulling in with the new color. Then chain 1 and turn. At this point, we can leave this the main color off to the side and just let it sit there and let the end of the new color sit right along that top edge, and we're going to work around it, and that way it gets woven in right away. So we're just going to continue to doing our single crochets across this row. So I'm only putting one stripe in this one. So at which point I end off that color. I chain 1 to turn, but I can take this yarn end and lay it across the top of that next row and continue on working around it again. Now we're going to begin the back. We're going to start at the tip of the nose and work all the way down to the cuff. Start with a slip knot just like before. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then in the second chain from the hook, work a single crochet and then 1 in each of the remaining 2 stitches. So we have a total of 3 single crochets to start this row. See our 3 single crochets? Okay, chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to do the fatter part of the nose. So we're going to start with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Work all the way across even until we get to the last stitch. Well, that's only 1 stitch away. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets in this last stitch also. That actually mimics the fatter part of the mouth. We're going to repeat this and increase 1 at the beginning of each row, and 1 at the end of each row until we have 15 stitches across. I'll meet up with you when I get there. Okay, now that we have 15, we're going to continue to work even until we get to row 13. We've done 12 rows. On row 13, we are going to align the eye sockets that we made. And all we're going to do is place each eye socket 2 stitches in from the edge. So this one goes here, and this one goes over here. 1, 2. So the end of it will be right there, and we're going to attach 3 stitches. So the first stitch will attach to this place right here. I always want to mark the first stitch that I'm going to be working so that when I reach it, I don't have to count backwards. These ends are just going to be left there for now. Don't worry about them. Just leave them out and out of the way. Okay, so on this round, we're going to chain our 1, and we're turning, and we're going to work the first 2 single crochets. 1, 2. In the first stitch, now I can take this off because I've already put my marker in. I'm going to insert my hook through the top of the first stitch and go through that stitch, and I'm going to pick up 1, pull up a loop, and make a single crochet. Then I'm going to through the center of the eye socket. You'll see it is like the little middle point, and I'm going to work a second single crochet. And then under the end stitches, I'm putting my hook right in there, and I'm going into the very next. Now, the eye socket is longer than 3 stitches, but that's okay, because when we shape it, it needs to curl around the eyeball. So, here we are at the next socket. So I'm taking my marker off, that's why I marked it. I'm inserting it in that part and going through both thicknesses and work a single crochet. And insert through the center, do a single crochet. Now just pull that off to the side. We'll use that, that's for later use. And then we're putting it in the last stitch on the eye socket and making sure we get right into that stitch. Pull it up nice and tight. Okay, and then we have 2 more stitches remaining. 1, 2. So we have successfully added the eye sockets. By doing the crocheting on this row, just like we did, it minimizes the finishing. Now there's one more thing I need to do before I go any further. I'm going to find the center 5 stitches, and I am going to mark the very center stitch. We'll need that for later use. Okay? Chain 1 and turn. Work even until row 17. Before we go on, we want to mark the end stitches of row 17. Just mark the ends, and that's perfect. You want to work even on these 15 stitches for 18 more rows, and then you'll end off. However, we need to make sure that we place this stripe at this exact same place. Well, you can see I've matched up my markers and my rows so the lines of the crochet will line up, and I want to make sure that the next 2 rows are the Kelly green. Okay, I'm getting to the end of my last row, and I'm going to just, for one last time, I'm going to just compare to make sure my stripe is in the right place. Yep, I'd say that's perfect. Good. So I can end this yarn off. Remember that mark stitch? We're going to take the marker right out of it, and we're going to hold our yarn to the back side. This is the inside of the animal, and we're going to pull up a loop. Okay, so now we have a loop on the center front, and we're going to go right down the back of this, and I'm going to do the first one double. You see what I just did? And I'm going to do a slip stitch. The only reason I'm doing that is so I kind of lock that end down and I don't pull it out while I'm going. And I'm going to slip stitch into each row going down. It's sort of awkward when you first start, but do you see how I did that? I'm going to pull that one up tight. Okay. And then I'm going to go into the next row, and I'm going directly down the center of it. So you see, right down the center. and doing 1 slip stitch in every single row. It's a little tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. And what you're doing is you're creating, oops, did I go out of crooked? That's the only thing you might do. So I'm going to take that one out and that one, and I'm going to move this over 1 more stitch to the left. And so you're just going to do this all the way to the base. We have now gone straight down to the base. Can you see that? Right to the base. Now, chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to roll the chain over so that it faces, the 3rd loop on the back faces me. And in the 2nd chain from the hook, I'm going to be working under that 3rd loop. I'm going to do a slip stitch. That's 1. And then I'm doing a slip stitch in each one of those chains until I get back to the main body. Then I'm going to insert my hook under both loops of that slip stitch that I put the basic slip stitch here, and I'm going to work a single crochet in the first one and then in the next one too. Now it's tight, and I want it to be tight. Okay, then I'm going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're going to continue to do this all the way up the sea serpent's back until you get to the last one. Like on mine, it worked out perfectly where I'm going to do the spike and then single crochet in here. If you had 2 extra, just do a decrease over the 2, and that would be fine too. It's not going to make any bit of difference because you're going to sew that down, and it gives them personality. You can cut your yarn at this point and weave this end in. Make a slip knot, chain 2, secure that knot with your finger so it doesn't tighten up before you want it to. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over. Do that 5 times. This is 4 and this is 5. Yarn over and pull through all of the loops, chain 1, then go back to the original spot and slip stitch into that same chain at the beginning. Okay, cut your yarn and pull it through. You can then pull up and tie the ends together to form a knot. All right, so there we have our little guy. Now, you're going to thread up your eyeball. I don't like to put the pupils on before I get the eyeball sewn in. You're going to pull it in to this, into the socket. Okay, and you can I'm going to leave that one there for a second and come back to this one, and I'm going to bring it through slightly over from where I was. So if you're looking at this, I'm going to move a little bit over and insert it through to the back too. The reason I'm doing that is because then I can knot this on the back before I proceed on. And this is on the inside. You'll still want to weave these ends in and secure the eyeball a little bit better, but This makes it go faster. So you're going to stitch back through here, and see how you can just even come up in the eye itself. It's no biggie. And just bring it through. It's sort of like sewing on a button, okay? And you can actually stitch under it, like here. There's no shame in burying it. No one's going to ever see it again. And you see how the eye is up there. So we're going to continue to weave these things in. If you want to knot it yet again, go ahead. It's not going to be a problem. And then I just trim them about a ½ inch. So that one's nice and woven in very nicely. Now, I'm going to do the same for this eye, and then I'll rejoin you. And on this one, I'm going to come in on the edge of the last stitch, and I'm going to shape that eye a little bit by stitching down. Let's see, I'm going to stitch it that way, and then come across and come out over here. See that? That way it allows me to pull the eyeball in and then stitch here. See how the socket that the eyeball goes in has added shaping? See that? So then we can stitch back and secure the end, and in fact I'm just bringing it off to the edge because I don't need to do any more work because the socket is actually completed, but I just kept that end so that I could shape it just a little bit once I added the eyeball. Okay, 8 inches. And frankly, this is a little bit too heavy a yarn, so here's my little trick for the day. I split. Now I have 2 plies. If you think that's too big, you can split it and make it down to 1. And I kind of like to go 2 or 1 for pupils because the easiest way to attach this is to come up from the inside, stab right into the eyeball, leave yourself a few inches on the inside, and then just stitch back and forth. Now this is kind of funny because this is where you give your little guy character. All right. He's a sea serpent after all. So then you just stab it through, and if you've gone back a couple of times as it is, you just stab it through to the back. Make sure you're not pulling up tight on it. There's his eyeball. And tie it off.
Embroider nostrils on row 4 or 5 of the back sections if desired.
Hey, we are ready to assemble our little character. We have 3 pieces. We have the back that's all finished with the eyes and the spine, and so you know that's the outside. Then you have the mouth, and this is the part that's going to be on the outside of the mouth. And then this piece here is the belly. And what you want to make sure, since you put stripes in, is that the stripes match, the 2 rows of the stripes match on each side. If you notice, if you put this one up to this, if you flip this over, it doesn't match. The lines of the crochet don't match. So you've got to make sure that you get the ones that are the lines of the crochet here. This side is the outside, and I already marked it. At this point, we're going to join the belly to the mouth. Okay, then I'm going to put the mouth so that the markers match up together. And we're going to work with the belly part facing us and the mouth part facing away. Since this is the outside and this is the outside, that's perfect. Now we can remove the markers on this side where the mouth is and insert our hook there. At which point we're going to pull up a loop in the main color, and we're going to use the double strand and do a chain 1. Now we're going to work our way all the way down to the tip of the nose. You can take the strand, the tail end, and lay it there and work around it. So for every row going down, we are going to do a single crochet. When you get down to the first row, you're going to insert the hook and you're going to work 2 single crochets in the very first row on the corner stitch. What that does is it helps turn the corner around the mouth, the tip of the mouth. On the center stitch on that first row, you're going to work 1 single crochet. And then on the last stitch of the first row, remember that there's 3 stitches in that row, we're going to work 2 single crochets in that one. And so we've just joined the mouth on this side, on the lower jaw, so to speak. And then we're going to come up this side to the markers again. And this time I'm going to take one of the markers out and slip it through the other. We're going to use one marker and combine them so they're together, and take the extra marker out. Okay, and then we're going to continue up this side, and I'm doing it extremely tightly. I want that to be very, very firm. There we go. See how nice that join is? Okay, and on the inside it looks like so. Now we can trim off that end that we wove in. That's no big deal. And there the tongue is sticking out, and we can remove this marker. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch just to close off that, because I'm going to end off my yarn. Okay, so now we've woven in our ends, and our little bottom of our chin is ready to go. And that's where our thumb would go in the puppet. So now it's time to put the back on. See? Okay. Now, once again, the stitch markers are marking the turn of the mouth right there. So we are going to take our stitch marker and pin those together at that place. And on this other side, same thing. Right where the join on the mouth is. And now, with the back of our little character, of our sea serpent facing us, we are also going to take our main color, and this time we're going to insert our hook in the last row of each of the things, and we're going to work around this direction. Once we've reached the mouth join, we've removed our marker, and at this point we're going to insert our hook under both thicknesses. This time we're picking up the back and the mouth because we've made the junction, and on the very first stitch I'm going to pick up the the edging, the end stitch on the belly, or end stitch on the other join, and I'm going to work a nice tight single crochet. At this point I can let go of that. Don't have to do the bottom part of the mouth anymore, and we're going to continue on placing the stitches. I am planning on putting more of these along this edge. However, I'm doing it in this dark green, so I would have to end my yarn. It just happened I ran out of yarn right there. We're going to insert our hook under the last stitch that we worked on the edge, and chain one using both the feeder yarn and the yarn tail, so we have a double right there. And then we're going to single crochet in the next available stitch. So that's right here along the edge. Chain single crochet. Then we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn it over and find that third loop on the back, and in the second chain from the hook and in each chain all the way to the end, we're going to work a slip stitch. 1, and this is just like what we did on the dorsal fin. All right, so there's our little fin. Now when we reach this edge, we're going to work a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Then we're going to chain 6 again, and guess what? We're going to continue around until we get to the end. I'll meet you there. Now at the end, we're going to place 1 here, and we're going to place 1 right where we did our other one, where we started. And that brings us to cutting our yarn and weaving this end in.
I hope you enjoyed crocheting Seymore the Sea Serpent. This whimsical water puppet is fun to make and to give. Thank you for watching the video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy crocheting!